So, Happy New Year and welcome to another video. We are Holly and Sam, and as you can tell from the title of the video, we're going to be talking to you about installing a diesel heater. A lot of this was filmed before Christmas, but we hope it is helpful to you in some way in your van build project. So let's start by looking at what product we got.
So we bought the product off Amazon for £105 and it's pretty good for the money. These are the ports for the intake and exhaust, and also the small one for the fuel pipe. And then this is the connector which powers everything, like the controller, the fuel pump and the power supply for the heater. Some parts are made from cheap plastic, but the main body is pretty good quality, and the higher end heaters cost £600, so saving quite a bit of money here. Then we've got the tubing for the hot air output, the intake and the exhaust pipe which goes onto the exhaust. I have had a warning that it can be quite delicate, so when installing it I used plenty of care to make sure I didn't break it. And then we've got the fuel filter, fuel pipes and the fuel pump, and when installing the fuel pump it has to be kept at a certain angle, but more on that on the actual build. And then we've got the loom with the controller and a keyring, which is nice because that means we can use the keyring in bed and not have to get up. Then we've got all our mounting brackets, Jubilee clips, tyre wraps and all sorts, just to secure everything. And then we've got the 10 litre fuel tank, which we won't be using for the fuel as we're tapping into the main supply, but we may use this for the grey water. So why would you want a heater? We feel like you may want a heater depending on the destinations you are going to, and especially the time of year that you are travelling. If you do not have hot water in the van, then this is a feature that can definitely make it feel a little bit more homely, and for the price of the heater being £105 compared to £600, I feel like there's no reason not to, and yeah, as it makes it homely, it's a must-have in a van build in my opinion.
Let's talk about some environmental aspects of our build. So in our build, we're trying to be as environmentally friendly as possible without burning many fossil fuels. So why did we pick a diesel heater over an electric heater? So a diesel heater uses less power.
But we can use an electric heater and just have more batteries.
Yes, but we haven't got enough space for another battery, nor have we got the capacity to have the induction hobs as well.
But what if we just add more solar panels?
Once again, there's not enough room, and the solar panels would only cover the fridge.
Okay, so there's not enough capacity for an electric heater in our van build.
See, Sam? Okay, enough of the boring stuff, just get on with installing the heater.
So we moved the chair, we've done this plenty of times because we changed it from a double over to a single, and there's 4 nuts holding down the chair, and if it's your first time removing it you may have some cables connected to the base plate.
With some tooling lent to us by our lovely friends George and Katie, we jacked the van up. You can obviously use whatever you've got at home to do this because there's loads of different tools out there that do exactly the same thing. Just make sure you do it safely. We found that driving up onto the ramps was quite a difficult method for us, so doing it this way was definitely better.
We've dropped the AdBlue tank. It was a lot heavier than we thought it was going to be.
Was it?
It was. And we didn't want to remove all the electrical lines, so it's still attached, but we've just kind of moved it to the side. And now we're just about to drop the fuel tank.
To remove the fuel tank, we used the jack with a piece of plywood to support the weight of it whilst undoing the 3 clamps that were holding it on, and these were really easy to undo. We also made sure that we had the least amount of fuel possible in the tank before doing this, and then once we'd removed it, we just bagged up all the ends of the pipes just to make sure no dirt got in them.
Once that part was off the top of the fuel tank, we cut the hole through and just made sure that no debris was going back into the tank by covering it, and made sure no debris was going in that little pack unit bit, I don't know what to call it, and then made sure that the pipe wasn't too long. It says in the instructions to make sure that there's a gap from it and the bottom of the tank of 25mm. Then when putting it back on, I used the same technique that I used to get it off, and that was just using a hammer and a punch. It wasn't a punch, I used an extension because it didn't actually have a punch, but it worked. It just made sure that it was tightly seated on. Then attaching all the piping that was provided with the attachment clips, and then attaching the filter a little bit later on. I decided to put the filter there because the instructions weren't very clear, so I started following the picture instead, and that's where they put it in the picture, so I thought it was alright. My mate Stefan has done it a bit differently on his van build. He's put it just before the unit, but I can see that there's benefits for doing it that way and benefits my way, being that my way it stops debris getting to the pump, and his way it stops debris getting to the unit. So there's pros and cons of both, so if it's in the instructions and on the picture, it's probably fine. I ain't that bothered. For the routing of the pipes, we put the fuel tank back up because this wouldn't be in the way for anything else for the heater, but the only thing that is in the way is the AdBlue tank, so we left that off. Then it came to attaching the fuel pump, and we decided to put that on the inside of the passenger step. There's only one bolt holding it on, so hopefully it will keep its angle, and this angle is at roughly 30 degrees, and the instructions say this to prevent a fire, so hopefully we'll do that, and hopefully one bolt will keep it in its position, but I'll check on that at some point.
We then moved on to the holes that needed to be cut for the heater. Now, the location that we chose for the heater wasn't great because it was on an uneven surface, and the instructions say to mount the heater onto a flat surface, but we wanted the heater here, so we were just going to make it work anyway. Now, there was already a cable with a grommet going through it, so instead of us cutting a new hole with the hole cutters that were very kindly lent to us by Sam's friend Stefan, we're just going to cut into the hole that was already there and then file the shape that we needed. Then once we'd cut this hole, we just protected all the metal with some hammerite, and then it was time for the routing of the pipes.
So that's where it comes through underneath the floor, and then we've got the inlet for the combustion, which is just tie wrapped over here. It's a bit loose, a bit dangly, but it should be fine. And we've got the exhaust, which I've mounted, and it goes on the other side of the heat shield. It should be away from the fuel tank. Just got to make sure that this bit, when we put it back up, doesn't hit the AdBlue tank and doesn't touch anything, because obviously this exhaust pipe is going to get hot.
But then we realised that there wasn't enough clearance for the AdBlue tank. Sam did have to cut a bit off to make it run as close to the structure of the van as possible, and this did mean cutting through a few of the firewalls just to make enough clearance for the AdBlue tank. As this was so close, Sam will be checking over everything at another point just to make sure everything is still where it should be.
And we did check on the exhaust pipe after we stayed in the van for one night and we had the heater on and off throughout the night. There was no damage to the AdBlue tank, even though I put aluminium tape on there just to protect it just in case, and nothing had loosened after I've been driving around on it for a little bit. We will be using the heater again, obviously, so we'll be checking on it again just to make sure that there is no further damage, as it is close and it does make me feel a little bit unsteady. But back to you, me. Thanks, future me. Now back to finishing off the heater. So we attached everything back down and we didn't have any nuts or bolts left over, so that's always a good sign. And then we dropped it off the jacks and started the engine just to make sure that there was no air in the fuel lines and that it was going to start, because otherwise we'd have a bit of a problem there, wouldn't we?
Yeah. It starts!
Thank God.
The next day we went and filled the van up, and then we connected the heater to the power. We had to run it twice in order to purge the lines, but then it all worked.
First run.
The heat's been on for half an hour now and it's really warm in here. We went to Tesco and to Argos and picked up a carbon monoxide detector.
So there's a little video about a heater. Hopefully that was useful and you can use it on your van project if you are, or if you're just following our project, then give us a subscribe and you'll see more videos like this. And also in 2021 we're going to be doing some different videos, so stick around for those. But yeah, thank you for watching, and here's our Instagram, follow us, all of that. See you later.